Yeah.
Yeah, just this way a bit, this way. There you go, come in there. Right, so here I am still at Newcastle Moot Hall with Mark Steele. It's about 11:25 or so. It was a relatively short hearing, but what was absolutely confirmed was that Gateshead Council are seeking to get Mark Steele jailed. So there's nothing in any way doubtful about that. This is unequivocal that Mark is facing jail because Gateshead Council basically do not want to answer the hard questions. So, Mark, I mean, obviously, you've just sat through, you made a number of requests to the judge, not least that Recorder Nolan, who heard the first hearing, be appointed to hear this committee hearing. But it seems that Gateshead Council are absolutely determined to do whatever it takes to make sure that Recorder Nolan does not hear that case.
Well, it's obviously in the case, as we all heard, the Gated Council most certainly don't want Recorder Nolan to hear the case. What they want to do is to bring me back to court on other charges to make sure that they will get a result. So obviously if they don't get a result first time, get a result second time, third time, how many times they're going to try and take me to court to try and get a result? And all I'm trying to do is my duty in law is to bring the truth about 5G to these characters, these people at the council, these individuals and the organisation. This authority has a duty in law to protect the community. 5G is an existential threat, as was shown by the banner behind us. It's an experimental waveform. It's in breach of the Nuremberg Code. It doesn't fit any regulatory standard. It fails every standard, every guideline, which I have sent enough documentary scientific evidence to all of those in authority over this issue. And what they're trying to do now is get me sent to prison to stop me from talking about this issue. It is the truth. When have we ever lived in a country, in a democracy, when an authority will try and imprison somebody for speaking the truth?
No, but asking the questions.
Asking the questions.
I mean, this is the crucial element here. It is the questions that you are asking that Gateshead Council are refusing to answer. And because they don't want to answer the questions, then they find your persistent questioning to be somewhat embarrassing for them. And so now they resort to the committal hearing. So the judge who was hearing it today stated that because they are seeking to get you jailed, then you are entitled to legal aid. So even though it's a civil case, the judge has ruled that you are entitled to legal aid. So what he's now done is he's deferred the committal hearing, and we don't have a fixed date for it. It'll be sometime after February the 25th. But in the short term, Mark has a lot of work to do. Obviously, he has to engage a firm of solicitors who will hopefully take up the case, and then obviously find a barrister who is sufficiently motivated to challenge this affront to democracy. And in fact, I mean, we have the constitution of Gateshead Council, and it's very, very clear that the councillors have a responsibility to their constituents, to engage with their constituents and not run away and hide when they're asked difficult questions. But I sense, Mark, that this goes a lot deeper than just Gateshead. Gateshead is on point here, but because this is being rolled out across the country, then Gateshead and you are being used as the sort of examples, if you like, the scapegoats to show the way as to how to shut down opposition.
Well, Gateshead Council definitely the testbed for this technology. It's been rolled out in this particular part of the world. However, this control management system that's situated on LED street lighting is all over the country. Councils, after having FY sent to them, they really don't, a lot of councils don't know what it is. Gateshead Council most certainly don't know what it is. They're still in denial that it's 5G, even though I have shown to them enough evidence. There is a YouTube video that explains it's 5G Killer Tech Mark Anthony, and it's 5G explained. It explains the high gain dielectric lens, basically battlefield interrogation systems, illegally and unlawfully interrogating your urban area. So in your home, spying on you. And we have anecdotal evidence from councillors and people who've worked in councils that this comes from the very, very top. Well, what I'm going to say to people is technology from China. I've never ever in my life would have thought that we're standing here and that the controlling mechanisms in local authorities, it's Beijing. It doesn't sound correct. And unfortunately, the evidence bears out exactly what I'm talking about, and that's the reason for MI6 concern about 5G. The Minister for the Ministry of Defence is concerned, grave concern about 5G, about its spying capability. So therefore, I'm only trying to get this information out, and it's so embarrassing for the local authority, and Gateshead local authority in particular, that trying to get me shut up.
Well, the likelihood is, Mark, that actually, I mean, there is a commercial issue here. And because the rollout of 5G has effectively not been covered by any government department, it's just like, yeah, go for it. And so what's happened is local authorities have entered into contractual arrangements with suppliers without being aware of the negative health implications. And now what they're really concerned about is if they are exposed, then obviously they face the potential case of being sued for breach of contract with these 5G and LED street lighting suppliers. But they also, of course, run the risk of being exposed to a class action as people start to realise that the negative health impacts that they are experiencing are directly related to this technology, which has been rolled out by their local authority, which has a duty of care. And every councillor, and certainly the director of public health within the council, has the responsibility to ensure that anything that is rolled out by the council is properly tested and will benefit the community and not cause them harm, which this will.
Yeah, the technology was rolled out without any public consultation. It was a multi-million pound project. There was no public consultation. That's in breach of parliamentary acts. There was no health impact analysis, no environmental impact analysis, no human rights impact analysis of that multi-million pound technological rollout. Optical radiation is already known as a hazard, and this was rolled out without any of that consultation, and the reason for that, it would have failed. So they've rolled out a technology that most certainly would have failed under any scrutiny, and those rules and regulations are laid down by Parliamentary Act. So these authorities are acting totally outside of the law that they are paid to adhere to. So they're all better off. There's no law anymore, apart from the law that the local authority want to try and get me sent to prison so that I will stop talking about this or embarrassing them, and that councillors who are still adamant that this isn't 5G, every time they are asked, anybody who wants to ring their local authorities, ring their local councillors and ask them, when they tell them it's not 5, when they tell you it's not 5G, ask them who told them it's not 5G. You get the phone put down on you.
So this is very much at the front end. You know, we don't have the 6 years plus that we've had to raise awareness about fracking, because 2020 is the target for this rollout across the UK, and in fact, indeed, across the supposed developed world. So it's really important that people do ask the hard questions, and there's some excellent templates on Mark's website, saveusnow.org.uk. And also, obviously, there are some considerable expenses here for Mark, not least if the committal hearing does go against him, because they're not only seeking the loss of Mark's liberty to set an example, but they are also going to seek all the costs associated with bringing these hearings. Now, Mark does have a crowdfund campaign set up. It was actually set up back in October, I think. Yeah. But it is absolutely crucial that this crowdfund campaign goes live again, and we'll put a link to Mark's crowdfunding campaign beneath this video. But it is absolutely essential that people really start to take a much greater interest in 5G. The reality is that local authorities are going to attempt to be dismissive. Remember that they don't want you to contact them once you've elected them. They just want the freedom to go about doing what they do, whilst having their heads so far up their own butts that they don't actually do anything meaningful. Well, now is the opportunity to hold them to account, because this applies right across the country. And you are seeing that more and more communities are announcing that with great glee that they have been identified as being a 5G test area. Well, look at the impact in Bristol, which has seen a phenomenal spike in student suicides since the campus became a 5G test bed. And we're going to see these kind of spikes throughout the country. The council won't want to talk about them, but then look at what other councils are doing, like Gateshead Council, which is setting up their own funeral business to take advantage of the anticipated increase in suicides and other deaths. They've actually stated that one of the reasons they've done it is to take account of the likely increase in suicides as a result of universal credit. Unbelievable, you couldn't make it up. So rather than address the problem, they say, okay, we'll deal with it just by setting up our own funeral service. As Mark says, this is an existential threat. And whilst we can't necessarily change what's going on throughout the world, we can certainly have a very, very significant impact on what's going on in our respective local communities. So this is about creating the chaos, the same chaos as we've created for the unconventional gas industry, the fracking industry, over the past 6 years. It's building up community activism, community opposition, so that the establishment, the industry and the government have no idea where the next challenge is coming from. They've relied on chaos as a control mechanism for far too long. The opportunity is now with us to create our own chaos and bring about the changes that we all know that we need to be seeing. So Mark, I have a feeling that these trips to Newcastle are going to become increasingly regular. We're back in court in Gateshead on Thursday week, where you have the appeal against the criminal conviction for harassing local councillors. And then obviously in some 6 weeks or so, we have the full committal hearing. Now this is crucial. We have, Mark asked the judge to ensure that the court was capable of seating 100+ in the public gallery, because this is, and I think the judge recognised that, this is an issue of absolute fundamental public interest. And really people from all over the country, not just on the 5G issue, but on many issues, need to be aware of what's occurring here, because this is potentially the precedent, this is the model for shutting down any vocal opposition. And in this case, it's not even direct opposition, it's simply asking the questions to try to get Gateshead Council to provide at least the confidence that they've researched it for themselves, which they clearly haven't.
Yeah, asking questions and warning councillors about the threat to people in their community, the community that they live in. This is absolutely unbelievable. I'm actually passing over expert evidence, scientific, published, peer-reviewed evidence, and we have councillors who are saying it's pseudo, it's nonsensical. The point of fact, if I was to turn around and say that Harvard University, Exeter University, Barcelona University, and some of the greatest institutions in the world, the Ramsey Institute, the National Toxicology Program in the USA, they were pseudo institutions. They were nonsensical. This science that comes out of these institutions is nonsensical. That's the information that we are and people are being given in our locality. Constituents are being told that what I'm saying is not correct, and that then leads to Council of Europe 1815 resolution, the International Court have stated 200 millivolts is the maximum a human can be exposed to, and the minimum amounts of radiation I'm measuring in people's bedrooms in Gateshead, 600. That's the minimum. I've measured as much as 4,000, where I've got women nosebleeds, women losing babies. This is real. This is absolutely real. And the real reason why we're here at this court today in Gateshead Council are attempting to try and get me sent to prison is to gag me. It's to take away my democratic right to speak out about the existential threat of 5G. It's a military grade weapon system, and believers, it may have on the tin, because somebody mentioned before it's not from China. That hardware is from China. Believers, I know where the factories are.
So it's all to play for. Somebody's just posted a comment that says 5G will roll out in 2020. Yeah, well, it will, if everyone just sits back and posts comments like 5G will roll out in 2020.
5G's that is absolute. That is mainstream narrative garbage. 5G is here today. People are dying here today. 5G's here. It's masquerading as a control management system. It was always in play. Don't ever believe the mainstream narrative. Don't think about 5G, these higher frequencies. One of the things that the mainstream media are covering, 5 gigahertz phones. 5 gigahertz phones, not 5G. Two completely separate things. 5G operates in the sub-gigahertz range. It's battlefield interrogation. You can look into the urban environment. You cannot look into the urban environment with higher frequency waveforms. They get blocked. And that's why I knew when this 5G was rolled out at 868 on the top of these streetlights in Gateshead, it's for urban interrogation. That's what it is. It's for spying on you. It's for backhauling the data out of every device in your home. It is illegal and unlawful. Fact, not 5 gigahertz. And it's not the new phones that you're getting from Huawei either. So just think about what the mainstream narrative's saying, what's in reality. Do your research. Follow the YouTube videos that I've put up. I know what 5G is, and believers, it's not what you're being told by the mainstream media.
And the more that Gateshead Council, the more effort the Gateshead Council put into getting Mark jailed, then one has to observe that the likelihood is that he's asking in questions that are a little bit too embarrassing. And rather than try and dismiss you as just a rampant conspiracy theorist, the only way they deal with it is to get you jailed.
Well, I think the first attempt at the rampant conspiracy theory fell to bits in front of Recorder Nolan QC, because unfortunately for Gateshead Council, the Recorder Nolan obviously had some technical background, so he could read the science and the technical papers that I had put in the bundle. And in fact, and the reason why he stated the 5G risk must be debated. He stated in a court, Mr. Steele, carry on your campaign. This is democracy in progress, and warned the council to open up the democratic process. And since then, we have seen zero. And since then, we get more information coming from these people. The Recorder Nolan didn't make that statement. I was actually told that in a telephone call that he didn't make that statement. Totally incorrect. And obviously, I've then written an email to Gateshead Council in relation to that, and that's why I'm here in court today.
And that's why, of course, that Gateshead Council's legal team are desperate for Recorder Nolan not to hear the committal proceedings, and also why they are desperate that a full transcript of that first hearing is not made available at the next hearing. So now, these transcripts are not cheap. They run to many hundreds of pounds. And this is a crucial element for Mark's challenge against the attempt to put him in jail. So if you can contribute to Mark's crowdfund, then please do. If you're not able to contribute to Mark's crowdfund, then maybe you could help by sharing it as widely as possible, because they are working on the basis that they can bring the full force of Gateshead Council and all the money that Gateshead Council doesn't have because it's in debt, but they can just dig that debt hole even deeper as long as they get Mark Steele jailed. Let's take this opportunity to expose the magnitude of the corruption within Gateshead Council, the magnitude of the deceit that is being employed here to gag a Gateshead resident who is simply asking questions because he has the health and well-being of his fellow citizens at heart. And Mark, just as we finish this broadcast, the sun comes out. So yeah, let's let the sun shine on the righteous for a few minutes. So I'll get out of the picture. And hey, we'll be back in 10 days. But well done, my friend. And
thanks, Ian. And I'd like to thank Ian for all his absolute sterling effort in, you know, helping me in putting the court papers together. He's an absolute diamond of a chap. Anybody gets into trouble, he's the man to come and help you out.
Please don't. I don't have enough. There's not enough hours in a day already. But yeah, this is a big one. This is absolutely crucial, and we'll see this through to the very end. And I hope that means that basically, you know, ultimately we see a reduction in the reliance on wireless, Wi-Fi, and that we start to see a return to hardwiring.
Hardwiring without a doubt. You know, it's all about burden. The more microwave radiation impacts you, the more toxic it can be. So the more it impacts on the biological structure. So 5G is an absolute catastrophe.
Hey, look, I'm getting a suntan here almost. Anyway, thanks to all those people who have joined us. I mean, people who've come as far from Northamptonshire. Anyone any further? Devon. Okay, there you go. So, you know, let's make sure that when we announce the date for the committal hearing, let's make sure that the court and Gateshead Council and the media who will inevitably cover the case actually comprehend the magnitude of the concern by the wider community. So thanks for joining me for these multiple streams today. And I think we're in need of a coffee, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So have a good day, and I will catch with you again at 8:30 on Wednesday morning. You take care now.